Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. We apologize we're a bit late out of our other session. I will call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion, please, from committee for the February 12th minutes? Thank you. Second, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, so yes, I guess. Anyone contrary-minded? Thank you. We'll go with the, we probably shouldn't go with the silent voting today, but we'll go with the nods. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, and then we're moving along into our 2018 year-end reporting and 2019 outlook. Very pleased to have both Economic Development Greater St. John here today and Develop St. John. And Phil, are you going to kick us off? Wonderful, thank you.
Through you, your mayor, Mayor Darling, thank you. Your mayor.
Your mayorship?
Yeah, your mayorship worship. Thank you, and I would like to welcome board members and staff from Economic Development Greater St. John as well as Develop St. John that are here today. Just the context that I wanted to provide is that there is a tremendous amount of work currently underway related to growth, under this umbrella of growth, both inside the city, outside the city, partner organizations, the province, the federal government, and there's a lot. And one of the sequencing that we go through is that we set targets on an annual basis. We go out and try to perform those objectives, and then we come back at the end of the year and say how we did. And that's essentially what's happening today for Edge SJ and Develop SJ. They're coming in. They provided targets, and they received an expectation letter from council last year, and they're coming in saying, how did we do? What did 2018 look like? But in addition to that, they're also coming in and saying, this is what our 2019 looks like. So this is a great opportunity to hear from the folks that are implementing these strategies for employment growth and tax-based growth, which are key priorities from Common Council and Growth Committee. And I welcome them here today to make those presentations.
Okay, thank you very much. And then, so are we queued up at the podium for, Ron, you have a few slides that you're going to be showing? Yep. You do, okay, so that'll be at the, okay, perfect, thank you. Yep. Yeah, well, yeah, if you can just go to the podium, Ron, are you okay to go from there, or would you like, oh, Andrew.
If we could go to the
yep.
end of the
perfect, thank you, sorry.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Can we hear me?
Yes, you're on there. Thanks,
good
Andrew.
Stuff.
Yep.
So, I will be brief. Andrew Rowland, I'm the chair of Economic Development Greater St. John. So, pleasure to be here this afternoon. I have a very few introductory remarks, and we'll pass it over to our CEO, Ron Gannett. So, just in terms of 2018, we had two big objectives for 2018. The first was to achieve all the KPIs that we set for the calendar year, and those were KPIs that we presented and were approved by the Regional Oversight Committee. And I'm very pleased to say that we did achieve all of those KPIs, and Ron will give you further update in a moment. The second thing that we were working on is Ron is our new CEO. Ron has been in the role since November of 2017, and I've been in my role since January of 2018. And so we needed to develop a new 3-year plan for what is now Edge SJ. So we spent a lot of time listening, talking to individuals, organizations, and companies throughout Greater St. John. Ron and I personally visited with all of the top 10 private sector employers in St. John and doing some research. And as a board, we challenged Ron and his management team to come up with a plan that was straightforward, that was focused, and that had what I use in my day job at Moosehead, SMART objectives. So specific, measurable, appropriate, relevant, and timely. And we're very proud of the plan that we have come up with. The central focus of that plan is growing the labor force in Greater St. John, and we have 4 areas of focus to achieve that. I'll just conclude by thanking all of the volunteers who give so much of their time to Edge SJ. It's very much appreciated, and I'll pass it over to Ron.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Should I?
Yeah, you're live. Yeah, you can move it. Yeah, thanks. Okay. Thanks, Ron.
So thank you so much, Chairman Andrew, and we have Andy, another executive member here, and Sue, and thank you for inviting us today. Mayor and Council and committee members, and John, welcome to St. John. Officially, it's It's great to have you here. I want to very quickly try to accomplish three things. First, I want to. Oh. Yeah.
You'll have to drive the slides yourself, Rob.
Okay, I'll drive it myself. That's great.
And I should just say while we're getting that logistics done, so we do broadcast all of our committee members now, so to millions of people around the globe. Ron, do your pitch, man, because there are people watching, or at least my mom is watching, and perhaps some of your family members. But
All right.
but we do all kidding aside, we in a world of open and transparent, we do broadcast all of our open committee and council meetings. The little cameras up above us, and there are likely many people watching at home. So.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, on that, hi, Mom, darling.
Yes, yeah.
So I'd like to accomplish three things, and I know how pressed for time we are, so there's a lot to talk about, but I want to cover off three things. First, as Andrew alluded to, we want to talk about the KPIs, the key performance measurements that were agreed on by the 5 regional mayors, the Regional Oversight Committee, in discussion with us. Those metrics would have been metrics that we, as as a somewhat new board and new management, adopted, and we figured we need to respect that in 2018 before we go forward into 2019. So I want to give the overview on those. Secondly, I want to discuss the elements of at a high level, the elements of the 3-year economic development plan. And finally, the third document that you would have received is, in fact, the work plan for 2019. So I want to talk about a little bit about the specifics of that document. So let's start off with the KPIs, see if Ron can run the, here we go. All right. Again, these were the agreed upon measurements that we said we would report on. So in terms of potential entrepreneurs, those would be primarily young people, people in our education system that would be exposed at an early age to the possibility of entrepreneurship. And our target was 800 for the year. Unbeknownst to us, the province of New Brunswick, through PEDAL, approached us and they looked at the program and said, we would like to take this into all the schools, and then we would like to use it as a model for the province. So that's why the numbers it wasn't poor planning, it was that we've been asked to expose more kids to the, more young people to the program. The second target is with respect to startups. And in 2017, we developed a program under Navigator. It's called the Venture Validation Program, where we take cohorts through a multi-week training program where they develop a business plan, and then they actually pitch those plans and hopefully in many cases start businesses. We had projected 25 for the year 2018. As of the end of the year, there were 37 startups. And these are companies that you walk by every day, that you go and buy coffee from every day, that you buy clothing from, that you get aerobic exercise from. They're all companies, most of them that would be resident to Uptown St. John. So the third one is existing entrepreneurs. So this would be businesses that have started up and maybe they have a year under their belt and they start hiring. And we had projected 45. In 2018, there were 75 of those jobs created. So the businesses would have not only be employing themselves, but they're actually employing other people now. Our existing business base is our companies that are currently existing, and they may have been here for a year, they may have been here for 151 years. But we had projected, based on the best information we had at the time, that there would be about 550 jobs. There were 892 that were announced, and at the end of 2018, in our best estimate, about 50% of those had been filled. So that's something I want to talk about more specific a little later on, but as to why that might be. In terms of external investment, we're talking about new investment to the community. So we have our existing business base, and we want to be paying very close attention to them. But then how do we make the pie bigger by inviting new investment in? And in that case, we had projected 250 jobs for 2018. There were announced 450 and hired 300. So I can come back to this if you like in our question period, but I'd like to move on to the second component, which is the pretty critical to us in 2018 was the development of a 3-year economic development plan. And as Andrew said, we got out and talked to industry leaders. We conducted research as to what was happening with our demographic, what sectors were growing, what were shrinking, how many people were leaving the region, what jobs were being created. And then we held several focus groups where we invited on a couple of occasions the 5 mayors and 5 councils to participate with us in the thinking and visioning of this 3-year plan. The plan, without getting into all the specifics, the vision is consistent long-term economic growth for the City of St. John and the region, alignment of economic development. So we're really pleased to be presenting today with our sister agency, Develop St. John. 2018 was a foundational year for both Edge SJ and Develop SJ, but we can see going forward that we will be tied at the hip on many projects, and we want to be here to amplify their message, and we believe the same is true from them. The 4 areas of focus coming out of our plan. Our organization may have been rightfully or wrongly sort of, it's been said that perhaps we've been too wide and not deep enough. That happens over time and usually with good reason, but sometimes it does pull away from the focus. So we're focused on 4 things: workforce development, bringing new investment and innovation into the region, marketing the region, and entrepreneurship development, creating a culture of a more robust entrepreneurial culture. To that end, so the 4 focus areas, we have tied what I call macro objectives, broad base, and then we're going to report on these each year. At the same time, we're going to be reporting on our traditional metrics that we have been reporting on. So, the number of jobs that have been created, the number of startups, and that type of thing. But we would like to see if we can have an impact, a positive impact on workforce development, entrepreneur development, business investment and innovation, and telling our St. John story better, if that can over time, year over year, increase our employment level by 2.5% per annum, increase our labor force by the same amount, increase our GDP, or our gross domestic product, by beyond that of the province of New Brunswick. For the last decade, we've been pretty consistent. As goes the province, goes St. John. We think we, as a major urban center, need to be outpacing the province. So our objective is a 0.5% increase, greater than the growth of the overall province. And finally, if we can do those things, can we start to change the dial in terms of consumer confidence? And that's really an industry that talks about how people feel about where they live, how confident they are about their work possibilities, about taking care of young people and old people, and quite frankly, how they feel about their quality of life. So I'm certainly not going to hit on all these. What I would say is that that we've tried to identify specific actions. We have a 3-year goal in each of those 4 areas, and then a 1-year goal, which is explained in our work plan. And in each of the 4 areas, we have identified a number of collaborators that we work with to achieve those goals. So I won't go into detail because of time, but happy to have that conversation on a one-on-one or at another time. Again, business investment and innovation. People say, well, what's different about this plan than previous plans? I would say an anomaly to this plan that would differentiate from almost any economic development plan. When we talk about business investment, bringing in new investment, we're talking about investment that would complement our existing business base. There's no great benefit in bringing 200 jobs to knock out 300 so how do we bring in jobs and investment that supports and enhances our existing business base? So at the same time you have internal growth and external investment. And certainly in the area of innovation, we've talked about this in previous meetings, we need to do better. We need to get more of our share in terms of innovation, both at the post-secondary and public sector, and also encourage it more and support it more at the industrial level. And finally, on entrepreneur development, and I'm just going to move to this next slide, just to give you an idea of the impact of this. We are changing our focus when we talk about entrepreneur development to be focused more on companies that can potentially scale up, that can hit an annual sales of roughly $1 million, that can employ more than a few people. We're looking at companies that we hope could, within a relatively short period of time, be employing 8, 10, 12 people. And so we are enhancing existing programs with a focus on startups that can scale up to $1 million in sales and 10 employees. And we're building a stronger entrepreneurial pipeline by working more closely with organizations like UMB and NBCC. We are working on a number of collaborative issues with those organizations, and certainly in our high school system. So what has that meant? We manage a fund that loans money to startup businesses, and it's a small amount, but in increments of roughly $20,000. As of the end of 2018, we currently have $980,000, so just under $1 million invested in small businesses, primarily in Uptown St. John. And I should say all of them are in the city of St. John, and that's a criteria to get the programming. So you do the math, $980,000 in increments of anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 loans. And on top of that, we just secured another $777,000 to loan out to new businesses coming on. Those dollars are dollars that do not come out of civic dollars. We leverage those through ACOA and provincial partners, and they complement they complement the dollars that you give us for operational. But those would entail, if you take a walk in any direction from this building in St. John, you will be passing companies that have got started on these loans. So, and finally, marketing. I'm not going to beat that one over the head. I know that there are sensitivities. What I would say is that currently we're working with Develop. We spent $50,000, $25,000 each, and we're working with a consulting firm to help us understand the best markets to go into to market, and what type of person, of company would be most receptive to our message that we have here in St. John. So we're very proud of that. We think it gets us a step closer to actually doing marketing, and we're proud to be working with the City of St. John, Discover, and in this case, very specifically Develop. And what did I say, my third? So we're going to evaluate this. We're going to report on this, both at what I call a macro level, and that's sort of the broader base, what's happening in our economy. And then again, we're going to be measuring the specifics of jobs created, companies started, and that type of measurements. So moving forward, What I would like this really important committee to understand, when we talk about growth in our city, and we talk about growing our economic base, growing our tax base, growing our population, we have to understand that we currently have anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 jobs unfilled in our city. As our chairman says, it's not an issue of not having jobs in St. John. It's an issue of not having skill sets and people that match the jobs. So in 2019, we're being very, very intentional about filling those unfilled jobs. On the 12th floor of this building, right now, our group is meeting with a company that is trying to hire 100 people, and we call it our situation room, because we bring in the client and we meet with them and we look at everything they're trying to do to recruit people, and we work with them to try and fill jobs. We have targeted 350 on-fill jobs to be filled in 2019. As of this morning, 220 of those have been filled. So we're really, really excited about that it's gaining momentum. The 22 companies that we're currently working with are very appreciative of the effort. And this is a joint effort with the province, the city, ourselves, but it's having an impact. And it's the type of thing that we need to be investing in this region, not just for today, but going forward. The world of economic development has changed in the last 5 years, and we have to be about placing skill sets to available jobs and inviting more people to come in to participate in our economy. So I've probably more than taken my time, but I thank you, Your Worship, and Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gadet, for the presentation. Questions? Councillor Strobridge, go ahead.
Thank you. These are on, right?
Yeah, they're on, yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the work that you're doing. I appreciate it very much.
Thank
to
you,
your
sir.
board as well. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, you mentioned that one of the challenges that employers are facing here in St. John is a lack of labor force.
Yes.
Getting the staff that they need.
Yes.
Can you speak to what sectors are struggling to find appropriate staff? And is there any way that, how are the employers, or how are you perhaps facilitating connecting those employers with people who are seeking employment?
Yeah, thank you so much. Currently, we're working with 21 companies, and right now their projection for 2019 is that these 21, it's not all inclusive, there's more, but these 21 are hoping to hire 1,137 people this year. Those jobs range from $28,000 a year to $180,000 a year. If I look at the list of companies in front of me, I'm looking at engineering companies, I'm looking at IT companies, I'm looking at professional services, I'm looking at retail, I'm looking at accommodation, I'm looking at healthcare. So your question, and it's a really good one. We are meeting with each of those companies individually. We're providing what we call an account executive to work directly with each one of those companies and look at their hiring practices, look at how they're marketing their opportunities. The other thing that we've done, and I'm really proud of, we have started a job bank. Sorry, the word is, I'm losing the word, but database. Thank you. A database that we started about 3 weeks ago. We currently, and we're trying to match and recruit so that we're attracting the skill sets these companies need. So currently there are 460 in that database, and it keeps being added to every day. But so that can be found on our website. We're pushing it out, and then we're connecting our companies. And in many cases, we are taking the individual by the hand and introducing them to the HR director, the CEO, the CFO, whoever is in charge of this for that company. And you know, it's having results in 3 short months, 220. You know, this is only going to get more exacerbated. So we need to figure out a way that we can keep up with the pace, but. Yeah.
So, thank you. So if, as an example, I had the skills that some of these companies that you're working with are looking for,
Yes.
could I come to you and say, here's my resume, here I am, can you match me with some of these employers that are looking for what I have to offer?
So not only could that happen, that's happening on a daily basis. So for whatever reason, people are coming directly to me, and I'm very quick to make sure they're in touch with Julie on our staff or Janet or whatever. But the word is getting out there. I have a friend of mine that I worked with in Ontario, and she's, she has a very successful career, and her husband just decided to come to St. John, and she's called me 3 times, and she's coming in next week, and I've already passed her resume on to say, look, can we try to help make a fit here? But yes, we long story short, we're doing exactly that, and both the companies and the job seeker seem to be really, really thrilled with the result.
Okay, I think that's
Thank you.
important. We should advertise that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKenzie? You just turn your
Thank
mic
you,
on,
Worship.
please, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate the time and effort that you put into your everyday efforts.
Thank you.
The concerns that I have is, obviously we want to grow our population base, but we also want to retain what we have here.
Yeah.
And we have an exodus of brain power leaving
We do.
St. John and New Brunswick currently. And I think that, when you talk about having 650 vacant jobs in St. John,
Yeah.
why are people leaving St. John? And I think one of the problems that we're facing is, we could have somebody who's got a, master's in education, obviously able to learn, obviously able to teach, but that skill set's not needed, and we're not willing to retrain them, to give them the new skills. So is your department doing anything with any groups to re-skill people who are very capable to fill these jobs?
So, and thank you for that question. You're talking to a long-standing passion of mine, whether it's, in my work in St. John or other areas. And I'm never one to advocate for building fences around our young people. They should go see the world, but not because they think they have to. We don't want them leaving because they think they don't have an ability to work and live at home. It's a multi-pronged approach. What I would say when you say our department or our organization, we are a facilitator, we're a collaborator, but I need this group to understand how purposely we are working with other departments, agencies, to try to address some of these big issues. So, working with PEDAL, working with the Department of Education, working with the COA, working with ONB, on everything from working with Develop and Discover, on everything from filling jobs to creating a good environment. I think what we have to be doing, if we're doing anything, if we're not doing anything well enough, I would say it's particularly in the area of marketing. So and marketing to ourselves, quite frankly, if our young people are not feeling invested, if they're not feeling appreciated, if they're not feeling like they have opportunity, I think we have to collectively look at ourselves and say, what are we missing when we talk about our region? So we are passionately involved in trying to keep young people, and that's why we have our 4 pillars. It would have been easy for me in year 1 to say, you know what, we need focus, and it has to be on investment attraction, or it has to be on entrepreneurship development. I fundamentally believe we have to get these 4 pillars with a level of excellence, and that we can't compromise one for the other. So the end result of that should be more people stay, more people arrive, more jobs, better quality of life, better tax base, better population, and more development. But we have to all be intentional about doing that.
And I mean, that sounds great, and I don't disagree with you, okay? But fundamentally,
Yes.
if you have a person who is on the edge, ready to leave the city,
Yeah.
very highly educated,
Yeah.
right, looking for a job,
Yes.
and he says, can anybody here
Yeah.
steer me in the right direction or show me a skill set that I don't have to fill a job, I will stay here.
Yeah.
But if I don't have that,
Yeah.
I'm taking my skills that I do have and going elsewhere.
I'd say-
And that's what I see happening.
Yeah, so for sure, just in the interest of time, I think so let's register, and I think one more counselor wants to jump in. Let's register the point. I don't disagree. I don't think Mr. Gadet's disagreeing. Probably we could list 25 agencies involved in a variety of work here, so I think the point is well received, and we get that feedback, and I have a couple of comments that may capture a piece of what you're trying to say there as well, Councillor. So thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Thanks for the presentation. I just have a couple thoughts. It's economic development. I'm in private business, in the minimum wage business. That's what I'm in.
Right.
Number one, I bet you 9.5 out of 10 people in the city of St. John don't know there's 1,000 to 2,000 high-paying jobs available. So if we don't know it as councilors, I'm privy to this information. That means 9.5 out of 10 people don't know there's jobs here. They only, and I've said it, whether I'm right or wrong, people move into places, stay places for one reason only. They're either retiring or they're moving for a job. So we have 2,000 good-paying jobs from what I understand you said, but nobody knows about it. So whether they live in the valley or if they just stay here, we'll get the economic value. And the number 2 point is, I'd like to say, is economic development. But it sounds like part of your doctrination, or whatever it is to be a job placement. No one does job searching for me. So I have to ask, why are we doing it for these major companies? We're taking the tax dollars from the citizens through no fault of your own, because you understand the situation, that we're promoting jobs, but if the industry, and just say the big industry, Irving Oil, needs 1,000 jobs, isn't it up to them to go out there? The Bank of Nova Scotia doesn't, or the Bank of Montreal. If they have jobs, don't they have their own people doing that? And I understand it's a good thing what you're doing, a great thing, but we have to get the word out there that there's 1,000 to 2,000 jobs. All I'm saying is we're supplementing what big industry is doing when they have their human resources. Nobody helps the city of St. John. We have our own human resources, right? Subsidized by the taxpayers. So I believe in the economic development. I believe we got to get it out there. But I say you're taking a lot of time doing something, trying to connect university, community college, right? And is that the right direction? Are you doing it because you have to do it and nobody else? But the mayor just said there's 25 agencies out there. So what's happening? The word is getting muddled. When there's too many fingers in the pie, there's no focus. It's like immigration. We got 20 people doing immigration, so there's no focus. And 1 to 2,000 jobs, that's the number one thing that everybody should be saying in St. John. Why are you moving out of here? There's a $100,000 job up in the top of the hill. But nobody knows, well, I'm going to Alberta, I'm going to Ontario, I'm going to Moncton, because I can get a job. So that's just my thoughts. I understand what you're doing. I appreciate what you're doing, connecting it. But one thing I'll say, economic development is the most important thing in any city on the planet. People only move for jobs or retirement. And you can call me wrong or wrong, but I know the only reason I'm here, I own my business. And I know the only reason my friends are here, because they work and they have jobs. Otherwise, they're not staying. And the youth are leaving here because they think there's a better opportunity down the road. We have to let them know there's opportunities here. 1,000 to 2,000 high-paying jobs, not minimum wage jobs like I'm into, high-paying jobs. And I think that's the most important thing, and economic development has to be done. People only come for work. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy?
Well, this may have already been said, but first of all, Ron, to you and Andrew and the board, thank you for coming in. I think the problem we do have in St. John is getting the message out. You know, St. John has a perception, and we somehow can't get over that and get the positive news out there. I mean, with the startups that you've said you've had in the last year and the number of jobs that are available, it's a positive message, and I think I go the other direction too on the companies, the new companies that have moved to St. John. It's a large number, and we're just not telling people enough that that's happening. And by not telling our own people, we can't get it out through the province. A lot of people, if they know that you're successful, then success follows success. They will come into your city because they know that other companies have been successful. So somehow or another, it's not the media's job necessarily, but it's our job somehow that we've got to pay more or make a bigger splash, I guess, about new companies coming, and spend a little money to do that, to sort of advertise them, recognize what they're doing, and also to recognize our local companies that have expanded and have built in this community. It's so important to recognize the people that spend money here. So those are just some of my thoughts. You know, I think that we're going in the right direction and everything, but we got to continue to do more of that. I mean, sometimes you'll see where a city talks about just a small startup of a business. And I mean, the newspaper does some here in St. John, but not enough. Not enough of our major companies that come in here are advertised enough so the public knows they're here. So I just leave that with you. I know you're working on it, but I'd like to encourage both of the development agencies to do that. It's very important.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Just a couple of rapid fire, Ron, more just feedback and final thanks. Thanks again. Maybe I can cover both boards, the next presenter as well. Thanks very much to the chairmans for being here today. We know you both have very busy to board members, staff members, and a lot of passion as you on the boards, a lot of passion in the room, and it really supports our key pillar of council's priority around growth and it is really that glue that binds us together. So I'll say a couple things based on what I heard from your presentation, Ron, and from members around the table. Boy, how the narrative has changed. You know, we were at the Economic Club in Toronto, I guess it was about a year ago now. It all blends together, and standing as three mayors, the Tri-City mayors, Fredericton, Moncton, and St. John, and saying we need talent. We need talent, and that is a different narrative than was even maybe a few short years ago. So this landscape is evolving very, very quickly. Jobs, so we have great opportunities here. We're working on talent recruitment. We're working on, the narrative has been from day one with this council, people, jobs, and growing the tax base. We've stayed focused on it. I just want to acknowledge that my colleagues are all making excellent points, but the narrative has shifted, and it's shifted very quickly. So to Councillor Armstrong's point on some of these employers, it's just when those jobs are unfilled, the economy is being held back. Someone's not in an apartment. Someone's not in the restaurant. Someone's. So I think we may be right now, a lot of us doing some things that maybe we wouldn't normally do, and maybe in a year or two we might not do. But right now we're in the boat trying to row together and get an engine on the back and get it hooked up. So the landscape is evolving very, very quickly. What I'm really impressed with all of the groups, including us and all the economic development agencies, is that no one's saying, you know what, everything we're doing is just great. We're happy. Let's just go on vacation, everybody. In fact, what we're saying is let's lace up our running sneakers and let's push each other a bit. Let's challenge status quo. Let's say yes to the right things and let's say no to other things. And then guess what? In 3 months, we may have to say no again because we thought we were doing. That's to me how quickly this landscape is evolving. But here's the great news: we've got a lot going for us. We've got quality of life. People in Toronto and Vancouver and other parts of the globe where you're less secure than you are here, they could only dream of what we have. I meet people on a weekly basis at least. I have to go do a cold call in Milledgeville in the next couple of days where a local citizen challenged me to go and personally visit with a newcomer. I said, well, of course, because, you know, in Toronto, I'm not sure how often Mayor Tory goes and visits newcomers, but we're going to go knock on the door in Milledgeville and have a cup of tea and just have a chat and thank them. And I hope that gets such a big program that I can't keep up anymore. So we've got quality of life, affordability, jobs. We're friendly. It's beautiful here. Oceans, rivers, parks. We've got the raw materials. So just two last comments. You know, identifying there's multiple and many agencies here. So I'm so, you know, it's not always smooth, but working together to have those important conversations to say, let's identify those barriers and let's leverage the synergies between all of these groups so that we can accelerate our results. And there's not a question in my mind that every single person in this space, that's what they want, and the city will grow, and the greater region will grow, and the province will grow together. So aligning the horsepower, I guess, Ron, there's a lot of agencies that your board and the other boards talk about. So the more we can say, hey, we'll do this, we're saying yes to this, we need you to say yes to that. So we're really, I know you give that feedback all the time. So thanks for the presentations today. I think we're evolving, and it's we've probably evolved more over the last several months than we did maybe a few, the years prior, and I know we'll continue to do that. But I'll just close again with boy, what a nice challenge to have is finding the right narrative to market and brand and attract thousands and thousands of people to our region to fill all these great jobs that we've got, because that's a very different narrative than we had a number of years ago.
It's a wonderful summary, Your Worship, and I want you to know how optimistic we are as an organization in this region. Okay. We believe in it. We know the city of St. John has its challenges, but man, the opportunity side is just so much neater.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I receive and file, please? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And contrary-minded? Okay, not seeing any. Thanks. Okay, and our next presenter, Phil, you don't need any context. Okay, so welcome the Chairman Francis Power from Develop St. John, and then he can turn it over as he sees fit. So welcome, Francis, and thank you.
Thank you. How much time do we have, Phil?
It's at 3:30, so we have about 20 to 25 minutes. Yeah.
Thank you. That's perfect. This slide is great. Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us today. I wanted to set the stage. I want to tell a story today. And my job is to set the stage to tell the story. To begin with, there's a number of members that are on our board that are here today. The new city manager, John, and his worship are ex officio members. Leslie McGee is the vice chair, and myself. And Jerry Lowe wanted to be here, but he's trying to do something with other things. And others couldn't make it, but it's great to be here. And I do have to do a shout out to my friends in Edge on two fronts, and you'd be happy to know that I have referred some immigrants to Ron directly. His team has met with those immigrants, and some of them are now working and are living in St. John. That's one. The second shout out I'll give to Andrew, and that is that they do have a program for people wanting to start business, a venture validation program. The average age in the group is 37, and I'm in the group as well, so thank you for that. Anyway, I have to be in positioning our mission, and our mission is to be relentless in trying to grow the tax base. We don't own anything other than we own networks, we own relationships, we own the way forward, and Develop St. John is a very creative team. It's Steve, Christine, Brian, and Jeff. And that team is one of 30 or so with the One Stop. It's one of 600 or so with the city. And all together is how we work. And so our mission cannot understate it. It takes all of us to get there, and so I have to push the button for the slides. So I just want to talk a little bit about our strategic framework and position a few brief comments. I have to be honest with you, I'm an obsessive person. I'm obsessed when it comes to the customer experience, customer centricity. And I'm obsessed with it because whoever delivers it best, that's where the client is going to go. And I have to say, we put it as our strategic pillar. It's the very first one. And I have to say thank you to the city for not always easy, not always happy, but we are collectively trying to move this thing forward, as well as the other agencies and groups. So as we align and we get to that oneness of a customer, what a dream that would be to be able to drive that. And so we're obsessed about it. Steve knows it, and the team knows it, and the board knows it. So customer centricity is fundamental. Under entrepreneurial leadership, tied to that, the second pillar that we have, and you have to remember that we are a brand new board. We had a clean piece of paper that we could start. How great that was. And so the second strategic pillar we had was entrepreneurial leadership. And there's one obsession we have in that one that I want to draw your attention to, is about having a common theme and a common vision, and whatever our value proposition or the brand is, if we could nail that together collectively, and I know that we're working with the city, we're working with Andrew and team, if we can make that common vision to tell our story, how great that would be. The third strategic pillar is, I'm really proud of the work that Steve and team have done in the business portfolio. And in the Rapid Lab was a chance to experiment something, to do something, and you'll see that Steve and team have hit home runs on those things. But the other thing I'm really proud of is working with the overall collective, because it's been a very enjoyable and rewarding and humbling experience for myself and the board. So kudos to the city for what you're doing, and keep the momentum on it. What did we say we were going to do a year ago, knowing what we did or didn't know? We said we'd grow the tax base by 75 million. We knew the museum was going in there. Without the museum, it would have been a 25 million, and return on investment we said was 2 to 1. And setting Steve up, who has a great story to tell. Steve, take your story.
Thanks, Francis. Well, as Francis pointed out, this is year one for this organization, although we've been about 18 months, I guess, with the formation and getting things organized, and been a tremendous effort from particularly the volunteer board. So we're really pleased to be a part of that. We looked at a number of things that we needed to do to kind of drive those KPIs and the target growth. As you know, early last year, we selected kind of 3 catalytic projects that we talked about that would leverage significant private sector investment. One's a new K-8 school in the Southern Peninsula, so Develop St. John has kind of led the charge, working with all of the partners in the community, particularly the District Education Council, to look at everything from evaluating sites to design of the most innovative school in the province. And we continue to work very closely with the province to move that forward. The Fundy Key site, the Fundy Key redevelopment of that site has been talked about for 20 years. We need to, and we are really focused on delivering on that. We spent a lot of time last year, as you know, working with the province with regards to the museum of being a critical component of that. We actually facilitated the deal for the city sold the land of the province to do that. Our discussions today are continuing with the province about how we repackage and revisit that site, particularly with private sector and development, with significant residential component of that in terms of a high-density residential development. So we're really optimistic that we've got the right pieces in place right now to drive that project forward. And then the new Route 1 interchange and realignment of Ashburn and the potential development and private sector investment that will be a catalyst for. So those are 3 projects. We currently have a task force engaged with working very closely with senior folks in the province to ensure that we're moving forward in a way that really they see the value in helping to make those investments come a reality. We also last year started on some really what we called foundational initiatives. The board spent 4 hours yesterday kind of hearing a lot of a lot of this feedback that we have from a lot of these foundational initiatives to drive growth over the next few years. We've completed a Lorneville industrial market sounding. Deloitte helped us reach out around the world for developers to look at what are the opportunities in the Lorneville industrial site. For the first time ever, we've done a really deep dive in the residential market. We know intuitively that there's a lot of demand for residential development, particularly in the urban core, but more broadly in the community. But we didn't have a good understanding of the data around that. So Turner Drake have helped us drive that, and we saw a lot of the results, exciting results from that yesterday. The good news is the demand for residential, the data is very positive, and it's in fact exceeded kind of our expectation of what that would be. We've also done a land inventory system. We've heard from a lot of our developers that we don't have accessible land in the community. And so we've taken a deep dive into understanding not only city-owned land, but provincially owned land and private sector held land. Who owns the land? Do they have the capacity to develop it? Can we help them matchmake to the real estate community or to other developers to make that happen? So we're going to really focus on kind of bringing that to life this year. We've done a cost competitive analysis of looking at what does it cost to develop in St. John compared to some of our competing jurisdictions in other cities to understand how do we become even more competitive in that front. So we've just received that information, which we're moving forward with. And we, to Francis's point, we've spent a lot of time in this past year talking to our customers to understand what we can do to better enhance the customer experience, the customers obviously being developers. So, as we worked through the projects last year, we had 55 kind of active projects in our hopper with a potential tax base lift of about $463 million. Obviously, all of those will not come to fruition, but we've got a lot of really interesting, and we're optimistic about a number of those in terms of moving them forward this year. 10 projects are being counted in our 2018 KPI results, which are part of your package, and I'll just review those in a second. And but really, they're about the projects that we had a very active role in helping securing funds, helping with site acquisition, site preparation, building permits, construction, and helping to facilitate and assist the developers through those. So I'm just going to take just a really quick moment and kind of run through what's included in our 2018 portfolio projects. The new Department of Fisheries and Oceans out in the industrial park, beautiful building and significant tax base. Simpson Truck and Parts, another really interesting use of recycled, and a lot of really interesting activities happening there for those who haven't visited. A significant expansion of Facilicorp, which is increasing the tax base significantly. We work closely with for a new convenience store in Tim Hortons at the Spruce Lake Industrial Park. We assisted with some of the site acquisition and selection, and some other assistance with the Dobson Group at a new car dealership in Rossay Avenue. We continue to work with Cook Aquaculture and a number of opportunities they have, but obviously the most high-profile one now is the huge investment in the former synagogue property. We have the Knoll Street residential development in Milledgeville, which has moved into phase 3, now moving into phase 4 this year. And again, we're providing a lot of support, advice, and helping to be a champion for the development of that project. We worked really closely with the developer of the former Salvation Army property, and not only selecting a project that he could get focused on, but again, a really important catalytic project for St. James Street and the redevelopment there uptown. And I don't know if everyone's seen the pictures online of the transformation of this, but it's really exciting. Across the street from that, we work closely with the developer of a new, not only private residence, but also some adjacent townhouses. And I think we've got a really motivated developer, new developer who's going to grow out of this and have other investments in the city as well. And we played a fairly critical, important role in with the new team that's acquired City Hall in some of those works. In the package, there's some kind of testimonials from some of our customers, about sort of what our role is. I won't go into detail on those. So the corporate results, corporate goals and results for 2018. We had, as Francis mentioned, we had set target of $75 million, which included $50 million of that with new museum. We're continuing to have discussions with the province about how that project could and be reshaped to move forward, but obviously it didn't happen in 2018 as was projected at the beginning of the year. So we had a tax base of additional target of $25 million without the museum, and the result from the projects I just reviewed is $29.6 million. And that really, just to kind of put that in perspective, is a fairly quick return for the city on their $821,000 they invest in us. That really gets paid back over a 2-year period. And over a 10-year period, just the work that we did in 2018 really leverages another $7.1 million over the next 10 years. So a fairly good return on an important investment. Just going to take a moment to talk about kind of our 2019 priorities. We are, as Francis mentioned, and we're working really closely with Jacqueline and the team, and I think there's another presentation that's going to follow this that Jacqueline's going to lead, just in terms of the customer service experience and how important that is collectively for all of us to continue to improve and enhance and become best in class at. And we really are excited about the progress we're making and some of the initiatives that are going to take place this year to bring that even further along. We are actively involved in discussions and continue to be, and as the team from EDGE pointed out, the continued enhanced alignment of our economic development functions is something that our board and our staff team are very passionate about. And we need to do, we've come a long way, as the mayor pointed out in his comments to the previous presentation, but there's still lots of room left to go, and we're all committed, and Develop St. John is committed to doing that. The third big priority is really to relentlessly sell St. John development opportunities. So we're really, with all the foundational work that was done last year, we are really focused on reaching outside of our jurisdiction, not only with our existing development community here, but to developers in Fredericton, Moncton, Halifax, and beyond, to introduce or reintroduce the St. John product, along with our market soundings and other data that we have now, to attract more developers and more developers to our community. And we are going to continue, as I mentioned earlier, to really proactively pursue the 3 priority capital growth projects for this year. So our corporate goals for this year. Over the last several years, the average growth in tax base for the city has been $25 million. So our target this year is to double that, to help double that, obviously working with growth and community development and the broader team, but we believe that our target should be to grow that in 2019, to double that in 2019, which would really be a 3-to-1 return on investment to over a 10-year period in this. But having said that, even doubling is not good enough in terms of where we need to get to. So as we talk about the realignment, and I know the city manager is starting to really speak to all city departments about the importance of all of us being focused on growth. If we could get all departments and all hands on deck, maybe there's a way that we could we'd not just double this, maybe there's a way we could triple and quadruple as we go forward. And I think that's really the challenge at hand, that we really need to kind of seize this window of opportunity to do that. So that's the quick overview of last year and the results, and really a bit of information on kind of where we see the opportunities for this year.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Carson. Deputy Mayor.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Steve and Francis, thank you very much, and the board for being here. I think for your first year, you've done a good job. I think that we've been very confident and very happy that Develop St. John has been successful in many areas. So we appreciate your commitment. And I just want to touch on one thing. Everybody pretty much that's working on development and trying to sell the city is probably sitting in the room. But, you know, from where we sit, sometimes we hear more negative than positive, because people feel they can come to us and say whatever they like, and that's fine. And I have to keep on this a bit, because we got to deliver the message that we're open for business. And I guess I know you may not want to say too much, but are we really open for business 100% now? Is everybody working? Are we working towards that, like getting every agency, every employee, everybody? Because, over time, and it's happened, some of our developers have a difficult time, and they have expressed that. They do business in St. John, but sometimes they just don't feel that, they're being listened to enough. And I hope that as Develop St. John and even economic development, that if we're not doing the right thing, that you come forward and say that loud and clear, because if we don't address any of the negative feedback we get, we'll never get better. And I feel that developers that spend their own private money to develop in St. John, to build in St. John, they really should be treated in some ways with kid gloves. We should open every door for them. We should be there for them. And I don't think always we are. And in the past, I know we haven't. And that hurts the city. It hurts everybody. Because we talk about growth, we talk about growing the tax base, and we can't do that unless we're upfront with everybody and everybody is at the same page at the same time trying to make it better. So I know you've had a couple slides there on customer service. I know we're going to talk about it for the one developer shop and so forth. But I have to ask, you've got to come forward if we're not getting there, because we all got to know and try to do better. So I don't know if you want to comment anything on it.
I'll comment just briefly.
That is just the key
Yep.
to the success of St. John, that is that we are open and willing to do whatever we can to work with our developers, regardless of who they are.
No, it's a great point, and obviously it's critical and a major component, as Francis mentioned right off the top. So we have spent a lot of time in the last year talking to and getting to know the challenges our customers are facing. You're right, we're not to where we need to be yet. The good news is, though, we've got a broader team here who's totally committed to making those changes and improvements that we need to make, and to be better at our customer service focus. And Jacqueline's going to go through quite a bit of detail around that in the next presentation. But there's always room for improvement in everything. But this is one area that we know there's an urgent need to change some things fairly significantly. So I think we're all committed and recognize the importance of that. And I think, not to speak for the city manager, but we're getting a clear sense from the new leader that this is not just our couple of departments. This is going to be across the organization as a priority.
And I just have one other thing I'd like to say, and like in some of the developments that you had on your slides, some of them are residential, and I think that we should somehow develop a policy that, again, it's everybody working together. So if somebody spends millions of dollars putting a residential area together, then we need to have our city departments, engineering, growth and development, working together to see, I know money's short, we don't have a lot, but we could fix up some of the infrastructure with even paving or fixing the sidewalks going into the developments, because if somebody's going to spend money building a nice investment area, for either residential or business, they don't want to have crumbling infrastructure around them. And we should try to, put our monies with some of the development that's happening in the city the best we can. We can't do everything at once, and I understand that. But there's several areas where people have invested money, and, really we haven't done very much to help that area look better.
That's a really good point, and I know...
Well, just, it attracts people. We want people that live in the St. John, but people got to be proud of where they live. You can't have a crumbling sidewalk or a crumbling street, and I'm not talking about winter potholes. I'm talking about stuff that's been there for a while. So I'm just passing that on. I'd love to have some working policy that everybody knows that they should be going in that.
I know, certainly, and I think it's fairly new, and others been around the table longer than I have in terms of some of these interdepartmental discussions that are going on with the city, but I know as we talk about, particularly from a planning perspective and neighborhood plan and even other investment areas in the community, there seems to be a really good understanding and appreciation for this across the department. So Mike Hugenholtz would be involved in a lot of these discussions now about where the priorities are to invest in street repairs and other things to help us leverage those growth dollars.
Okay, we're just going to move on, if I can. Councillor Armstrong, you had a...
Yes, thank you. I'm going to pick up on what Shirley has said. It's about image. It's seriously about image, folks. We're improving the image. I think this Develop St. John, which the Growth Committee started on behalf of the last city manager, is probably one of the best things we're going to do, besides marketing. Everybody knows I'm on the big marketing. I love marketing because it's all about marketing and image, 1,000%. Under that, to this councillor, is Develop St. John. So I think it's good that we're started. We're on the move. Are we 100%? Absolutely not. We got to learn to take criticism. I hate to be negative, but I mean, it's facts. We have an image problem in the city of St. John. Are we improving it? Yes. I happen to be lucky enough to be at the ground level, and the people in this, some of the people in this room know. The people with the money that are doing the building, I happen to know quite a few of them. And it's an image problem. They have money. They don't need our money. They don't need to do anything else in life. But they have the money to make this city happen. And I bet you nobody knows that there's $200 million going on to work in this summer over on the port. It's going to be a little economic boom in this city. It's going to be great. So people are going to look, the blue-collar guy's going to be working, and it's an image. Oh, everybody's working. So that's just one step. City staff, we got smart, young city staff here. And coordinating Develop St. John, because Develop St. John can take them to city staff, and as the city staff goes, well, you know, this is the reason we can't do it, through no fault of their own. But I like a little gray area, and I said this the other day, I'll take 10 good things and have someone screw up 2. Absolutely, because in business, guess what? You're always going to be in business. So I'll take a staff member that does 10 good things and screws up 2, giddy up. You're ahead of the game. You can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we coordinate all this together, and I'm telling you, the image will change. It's going to take some time, but it's starting to happen. And I believe Develop St. John is a key to it, because they have to work with staff. And staff has to have the freedom, and I think through our new city manager, I forget what he said on Saturday, and I wish I could remember, but he had a great saying about something, because I work in the gray area, he's not the gray area. I don't want anybody to break the law, Mr. City Manager, but I'm saying, I'm passionate about this stuff, because we need to grow.
Good.
And I'm not worried, and I know, let me go on there, I know I'm going to...
No, I was going to say, we've got good news for you, because we're going to give you detailed information on exactly how we're going to action the
Absolutely.
feedback. Yeah.
So I'll move on to, I wrote some things down here. The land use. We have land in this city, and not enough of it, but we've got to coordinate that with developers. To get through the red tape, there's people that want to build in St. John, folks, whether you know it or not. People do want to come here. Because we have more than anybody else in New Brunswick and in Canada. We got everything. We just have to put it together. And I'm going to try consciously to be one of the most positive people. Even though I'm a negative guy, I want to be one of the most positive people and preach that message. I got to learn that. Instead of picking on the bad stuff, say the good things. Nobody has what we have. Nobody. And we got to tell that to the citizens of St. John. Because I'll tell you, we're a proud people here. The wharf, you've put the tender out for the demolition of the building, correct?
City has, yes.
The city has, correct?
Yes.
I think this is a good idea, and this is from a past councilor, because I listened to what he says, obviously, and we know who that is. Is it better that we buy that land back and own it? Because now we have no control over it. We have no control over a piece of that land. And that's the most valuable piece of property right now in the city of St. John, is that wharf. Now, we know the wall take about $15 million to fix, but we don't own the land. So I'm just suggesting if we buy it back, and I think the board members already heard this, but this will be public, we buy it back, then we have control of it, and if something came along, we have our fate in our hands. We don't have to go to the province.
Well, I guess two things. I don't think we should buy it back, would be my recommendation. We owned it for 15 years and weren't able to do anything with it when we owned it. We now have the province as a partner in it, and as I mentioned earlier, we're having very active discussions about what that partnership could look like in terms of bringing that site to life. I think we're better off having the province at the table as a partner than we are getting the deed back, because we've had the ownership of it for years now and haven't been able to pull the trigger on a development. So I'm more optimistic that we will have a better chance of getting this pulled together as a development with the province as a partner at the table.
But we will agree that the building being down, it makes the land more valuable.
Yes.
But anybody in their right mind who's a developer is not going to do anything on that site till the seawall's fixed. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Those
So
are
we
part
got
of
that
the
out there.
discussions. Yep.
I don't mind being, I still think we should own the land. That's just councilors. Because you control your destiny. When you own your own building, you control your destiny.
So just to check in, growth committee members, so we have 3 more, at least, we're going to scrap an agenda item. We have 3 more 10-minute apiece. We can go another 15, 20 minutes, but that's up to you folks, right? So we can add on 10 minutes, but we have 3 more items that are time critical today.
All right,
Wrap us up.
I'm still going to yap, so.
Well, I'll meet you.
I got questions.
Steve,
Not
meet,
actually yapping.
yeah.
The Lorneville Barge Terminal, which came in under budget, on time, which is a fantastic job, and I think Brian was one of the pillars in that one. Have we got anything coming up for the use of that barge in 2019?
Yeah, there are a number of things under discussion. There's nothing confirmed at this point, but there are a number of opportunities that are being actively pursued.
Do you think they would happen this year?
Yes.
Okay. And that's the stuff we got to get out there. I know it's not signed on the dotted line, but hope is everything. Hope. Vision. Hope. Something's happening. Don't forget, $200 million with the work on the west side going on, and nobody knows. But it's all going to start. The contract's going out in April, and the work will begin. It's big work. It's grunt work. I'm a grunt, so I like that stuff. But I mean, that's what makes your economy grow. Anyway, thank you, Mayor, for giving me the time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Thanks for the presentation today, Steve. Just a couple of closing comments. Again, a lot of passion on your presentation. Thank you. A lot of great work going on. I'm not sure if Barbara's writing her story out here or Barbara's gone. I mean, one of the challenges we have is, if you just were to summarize what we heard today, right? $460 million worth of work in the pipeline, 1,200 to 1,800 jobs. The quality of life, I won't repeat, my views there. We're working on enhancing what I would characterize as good customer service to make it exceptional customer service. We're working on the fundamentals. We're studying and understanding the demographic shifts and changes. We're picking up on the fact that our uptown core, the vibrancy of any urban center, is got a tremendous amount of life. The heart of world-class restaurants, the bar district, arts and culture, the hub of employment. So we've got the narrative. I mean, one of our challenges, I guess, is that we all know this, like we're preaching to the converted. So we know how important this is to tell that. We are. None of us are in a bubble. I mean, we are. Our status quo has some challenges, but we're on the cusp here, and I prefer Vision 2030, where debt's been reduced, taxes have been reduced, water rates have been reduced. We're growing exponentially. We're still filling jobs. Population has grown. We're winning awards for being the best marketers of a community in the country. We've just don't know how to do this next part, but I keep saying it. We've just won. We've just been awarded the Deloitte's award for being one of Canada's 50 best managed companies, the first municipality ever to have done it in the history of the award, and on and on and on. So, And again, it is up to us. There's a lot of champions in this room. There's a lot of passion in this room. And we'll just have to keep our foot to the floor. And, again, it's a bit of a disease, but it's a bit of a blessing too. For me, it's, we did something great yesterday. We should celebrate it, and we should want to do just a bit more tomorrow. And, the discussions around, and that not only discussions, the demonstration of alignment amongst our economic developments. What more can we do? How can we align our message? How can we have better customer service? How can we show that we do have land? How can we be leaders in the shifts in the marketplace? So there's a lot of really fantastic conversation that happened here today. Some good feedback for each of the agencies, and we thank you for the work you're doing as a board, as leaders, and for working with our teams here who are, I can assure you, equally passionate about moving our city forward. So thank you for the presentations. Yeah, receive and file. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anyone contrary-minded? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have the item we spoke about, I think, several times. So growth and community development. Yeah, sure, and city manager.
Members of the Growth Committee, good afternoon. We could, quite frankly, spend all afternoon, or what's left of it into the evening, speaking about the various initiatives that are currently being undertaken to enhance what is already good customer service into better customer service. We could also spend the same amount of time talking about how we are aligning everyone in the organization to focus in on the growth agenda. And the Deputy Mayor's points about, are we considering the effects on transportation and roads and sidewalks and everything else, the short answer is absolutely yes. For today, what we wish to focus on is just some of the initiatives that we are looking at in growth and community development services in terms of enhancing that customer service, our responsiveness to the client. And it's just focused on that unique, singular aspect. There's much more to follow, but for today, that's where we'll focus. And it is the Commissioner of Growth and Community Development Services that will provide the update.
Good afternoon, members of Growth Committee. I'm pleased to be here on behalf of Growth and Community Development Services to share the details of actioning our customer service enhancement plan for 2019. So I'm going to flow through this fairly quickly and talk about really drivers, where we've been, where we're going, and to really get into the details of the short and long-term initiatives. So importantly, I think the committee knows full well that this is a key priority for the organization around enhancing customer service, and it's very much linked to the urgency. It's very much linked to the city's financial challenges, and really clearly we need to drive tax-based growth as an organization in order to close that gap and to ensure sustainability going forward. And there's no question that customer service and growth are interconnected. The city's one-stop development shop is a very powerful economic development tool, working together with Develop SJ. But we really need to continue to improve that model to ensure the positive experience for our clients, as well as creating that positive environment for investment. Certainly the one-stop development shop was a major transformation of how we do business. We transformed the service through a series of service improvements, bringing all the functions under one roof, introducing metrics to drive performance, and we've shown results within those last 5 years. More than 30% improvement in really the first few months of the one-stop. And we are exceeding all of our metrics for turnaround times today. So a lot of positive momentum, but still more work to be done. We know we need to continually improve the model and do better going forward. Certainly there have been some discussion around some of the challenges we continue to have in the areas of improvement, and we've had the opportunity to have feedback from developers, and we're going to reach out and do some more of that. But some of the messages we're hearing is there's not that consistent level of customer service. We need to do a better job of being solutions-oriented, really facilitating solutions, those win-win solutions going forward. And some of the expectations, not across the board, but in some particular areas, the expectations for processes are not always clear. That's causing frustration for our clients, costly resubmissions, and in some cases we really need to revisit what those standards are. So those are some of the issues we hope to tackle. Really, we know perception is reality, and really one negative experience can really undermine our investment and traction efforts. So it is a key priority for us moving forward. So certainly we have some solid strengths to build on. We have a really solid team. We have an innovative model, the One-Stop Development Shop working together with Develop SJ. We have a team that embraces continuous improvement. There's a lot of momentum happening right now in the community around growth. Lots of opportunity to build on there. So working together, we want to work together and realize the vision to be really best in class at solutions-oriented customer service that ultimately drives smart growth. So our plan for customer service really focuses on 3 key areas that I want to touch on for you. Certainly, a major focus area will be around fostering a customer-centric culture amongst our team. Secondly, reducing barriers and incentivizing smart growth, and improving our processes to reduce red tape. So really looking at those key processes and policies and bylaws that are challenging for industry to create a more predictable process and to drive down the costs for our clients. And certainly this plan that I'm going to share with you this afternoon is meant to be something we can action immediately. So we've broken it down into the next 90 days and what are the more transformational initiatives that we hope to bring forward by the end of 2019. So one fundamental piece to this is to introduce a new role for us, a customer service manager for the One-Stop Development Shop that can really act as the single point of contact within the department to manage customer service, that relationship and experience to drive customer service improvement, working together with a quick reaction team to really action this plan. And I'm pleased to share with you this afternoon that Ms. Rachel Van Wart has agreed to step into this role. She's done an incredible job really accelerating our dangerous buildings program, and she's going to leverage that leadership skill set and take customer service to the next level. So we also, as part of that, will be, in order to keep the momentum going on dangerous buildings, we have Ms. Catherine Lowe that's here with us as well, that has been working behind the scenes on the dangerous buildings program. So she's gonna take a leadership role in really executing that going forward. So you'll see her at council and Rachel in a new role. So we're pretty excited about that, and we are accomplishing this within our existing staff complement. So we're pleased to make that happen. A key initiative for Rachel and our team will be to really roll out in the short term customer service training, and that's meant to really strengthen our competencies and our capacity to deliver that more solutions-oriented customer service. So not ignoring the bylaws or public safety, but ensuring that we are bringing forward those win-win, those creative win-win solutions. Third key area, we've already done a bit of engagement already with developers, but we really want to have some focused engagement through this customer enhancement plan to get the feedback directly from our clients, to understand what are their pain points, what are the areas that would be the improvements that would have the highest impact to support customer-centric service for them. And so we have in the works, working together with Develop SJ, some sessions lined up in the coming weeks to get that feedback directly and to test some of these ideas for improvement. And the fourth initiative around the next is to action those improvements. So we're committed to delivering up to 10 just do it improvements that will involve immediate changes to how we deliver our service. So this is going to be things like streamlining the heritage approvals. There's things that can be done at a staff level. It can be phasing permits so that developers can get projects moving forward. Or value-added services like new manuals and training tools that will support them. So by the end of 2019, we are committing to deliver the Central Peninsula Neighborhood Plan, and along with that, a new heritage bylaw and related zoning bylaw changes. And this is a transformative reform package that will really drive growth and unlock the momentum that you're already seeing in the urban core. And I know later on in the agenda we are going to talk to you about how do we accelerate some of the incentive programs to help continue and build that momentum around that new vision for the Central Peninsula. And the final area is around making more robust improvements to our planning and infrastructure processes, so to ensure a more efficient and effective process for our clients. And really the focus in these improvements will be around cutting red tape, reducing barriers, improving predictability for clients, and introducing new value-added tools to achieve our outcomes, but ultimately to reduce the cost burden on industry. So we are certainly, this isn't a very ambitious, it's only 6 things, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes and will involve a lot of changes that will be very visible, I'm confident. So certainly ambitious, but we're working together with our partners, with Develop SJ. We are committed to raising the bar on customer service, and I am confident you'll see our service over the course of 2019 really go from good to great, with the end game of facilitating growth for the community. So with that, just I guess today we wanted to share the plan with you, get your feedback, and we're also intending to go to council on Monday night to share this to the broader council. And in the meantime, we are moving forward to action some of this stuff. We've got Rachel in place. We're scheduling the client engagement sessions. And we will prioritize the action plan really based on the feedback that we hear from industry. And certainly the Growth Committee, I know, is a big supporter of this is a key priority for committee, and we'll keep you updated as we move forward. So today is just an opportunity to get your feedback, and we'll have regular touch points along the way.
Okay, thank you. Deputy?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jacqueline. I think the report's very good. I think it's a great step. And congratulations to Rachel. There's just a couple things I don't work in your department. I know you do good work, but you, as I said before today, people feel very comfortable coming up to a member of council and saying whatever. And sometimes they may not have all the information right, but you have to understand that it's a member of the public and it's their what they feel, and they feel other people are with them. So it's very important that we address it. And a couple of the things, like I just want to know, if I was to go to the one-stop development shop and I had lots of money and I wanted to develop the Atlantic Sugar site, just supposing, and I didn't have too much idea what to do or which way to go, do you send a staff person with me? Do I follow through and always have that same staff person to deal with on that issue, or do you fix me? Or do I have to go around like 7 or 8 people? Because that to me is something that's often come back to me. We want to contact, and like we're going to do investment in St. John. We want to contact a person. We want to follow through. So is that the way it's going to work now?
Through you to the deputy. Yes, you're hitting on an important point, which is around that customer relationship management. That is an area that we do want to prioritize. We do offer, we have a Project Champion program today. It's still fairly new, and we have assigned point people for key projects, but certainly that's something that we really want to do much more of. We want to make sure that we have point people on all major projects going forward, and that is a really important support in helping them navigate the process, anticipate issues, and develop solutions. So that certainly is something we want to bolster going forward.
I hope we do, because I think that's very, very important. And if everything flies apart, then you have a chance to bring it back together if you have that one person that's working with whoever wants to do the investment. The other issue I just want to address for a moment, and I really have very little knowledge of it, but I can't tell you when you put this in place, but it's the engineering drawings that somebody has to do when they're going to develop a site. I don't know what you call it, whether it's foundation, it's before they do the foundation. I don't know how new it is, but I can tell you that in the last 2 or 3 years, I couldn't count the number of people, developers and people come to me and complain about the way we, I guess, force them, or it's mandated, that they have to have engineering drawings before they can get a development in place, and they don't have the assistance from staff to know why they have to do it or how they have to do it. I would assume it's got to do with the flow of the water from the land. You have no idea how many people complain about the city, and people that have walked away from developments, people that just say they can't do it, and it all comes down to that. It comes down to I don't know if it's new. It has to be fairly new, because I don't remember it years ago, but it's something to do with engineering, and it costs $4,000 or $5,000 for everyone to do it, and it's on the flow of water. And I don't know, it would be good maybe if you had a session that you explained it to us. Because if it's a new condition that we feel we have to put in place, and I can understand that, because water is a big issue when you're doing a new building. But I'd like to understand why we're doing it. Why does the public not understand it? Why do the developers not understand it? Why does everybody not want to do it? Or a lot of people don't want to do it because they don't want the extra money. So I'm just bringing that to your attention. I would love to know, so I can tell the people that come to me, well, yes, it's important that we do that because.
Excuse me for 1 second, folks. Thanks for those comments, Deputy. I think what Ms. Hamilton's looking for is, as it relates to the process that we've laid out here in front of you, that we're moving forward rapidly with it, that we're appointing someone to head up a brand new customer service role as a customer service champion, if you will, the connector role with Ms. Van Wart, and sort of what's been proposed. Out of that, I think, for example, Deputy, with your comments, within those facilitated sessions with the builders, developers, there'll be lots of space, Jacqueline, for them to say, why do you make us do this drawing? Why do you make us do that drawing? But on the proposal in front of us, in terms of this approach to enhance customer service, is that the most helpful feedback that you're looking for, Jacqueline, today?
Yes, through you to the deputy. I think she's hitting on the infrastructure process with respect to storm drainage. That was a new bylaw that was brought in 2016, and I know that's something that what has existed in the city before. It is something that's in place in other jurisdictions as well, but it's really how do we and it's aimed at safeguarding the city's infrastructure, preventing downstream flooding and all of that. But that is an area that we want to delve into. So we did highlight the infrastructure process and stormwater management in particular. And what we want to achieve with some of this engagement sessions is to really really, well, first of all, get the pain points, and I suspect that's one we've heard about already, and we will hear about some more. But what would be the things that would make a difference through that to developers, and how can we modify those processes and requirements to make it easier, but still achieve the outcomes that are important in terms of preventing downstream flooding?
And I only mention them because I think it's important that you know what feedback we get from community. And we're not engineers. We don't work in the department every day. So we don't know what you do every day, everything you do. But you should know the perception of what's in the community and what people are most upset about. So I'm telling you because that's how you get it better.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. I agree with what Shirley's saying. She's bringing up one point. And please, it's to help everybody here. When we say something, we hear directly from the developers. And when you're in your office, you don't hear from developers. Because they don't want to, they talk to maybe the second or third level person, no, you can't do this. And that's what we have, the image problem. So I think it's great that Rachel's going to start being a point person. But I would also say, as Jacqueline is a commissioner, and maybe Amy, you guys got to stay in touch with the developers themselves, the money people. When you own a business, you know who most people want to talk to? The owners. So you guys are the owners of this process. And sometimes maybe reach out to the guys that are doing the major developments. Get to know them. Because you know what? Relationships is what makes things happen. It's all about relationships, really, in the real world. Then you know, Amy, why can't we do this, you know? I don't understand it. I've heard it the same thing Shirley's heard. Why, you know, we're stopping 100 houses because the guy can't spend $5 grand on water problems. As far as I know, water runs downhill. It always has. But we do retention problems on the top of the hill. That's a mystery to me. But I'm not an engineer. So I get it from that point of view. I go, well, gee, it doesn't make sense to me. Water runs downhill. Anyway, but I mean, it's good to know, and if you get to find out people, and don't take it as criticism, because I mean, we know we're dealing with developers. I mean, they're always one-sided. It's all about making a buck. But there has to be a process, and I like what I'm hearing. I like this presentation. We're moving forward with a positive message that staff wants to be involved. They have to be involved. And they have to know the limitations, whether you're a developer, an owner, it doesn't matter. Staff can only do so much, but they also can't say no to everything. And when you opened up with working together, trying not, no isn't the first words out of our mouth. It's, if I understand something, I mean, I've been on this council for 3 years now, and trust me, staff has changed my mind, and I'm as stubborn as they come. But when they explain it to me, I go, okay. And I'll, you know, I understand it. And maybe this is what we need, because you got to remember you're dealing with grunt people, developers. They're worth a lot of money, but they're still punching bag guys. They just boof. And that's why they're successful. So get to know them. They're not bad people. They're a little rough, but they're not bad people. But they're the money guys that move this city. We all can't be shirt and ties. We know I'm not. Only at council meetings, but I'm saying, and so I like what I'm hearing, Jacqueline. I think it's awesome what you're doing. You got one person to go to, and she has to work with Francis and develop St. John. So you get everybody in the room moving in the same direction, and there's going to be disagreements. Absolutely, it's business. But if we can get that image out there, because right now, as Shirley said, the image is, even with the old guys, you got to remember, it's the old guys that have the money right now, and their sons are taking over the business. And what handed down is the image. And the most important thing is we have to change the image, right? What was a perception is not reality, but the perception is out there. We're not open for business. But I like, and we got to get this message out, and I think it's great. And I think, Jacqueline, you get out there, and Amy gets out to meet these people, have a meeting every couple weeks. If I don't go to the meeting and I'm having a problem with city staff, guess what? That's on me as an owner. Well, why weren't you at the meeting, Armstrong? We explained all that to you. Then you can't come back to Councillor Armstrong or McKenzie or anybody and say, well, you know, the city's no good, I couldn't work with them. I go, were you at the meeting? No. So then you got your out.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Thank you. We got the spirit of what you're saying.
Are
Thank
you sure?
I do, yeah. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I recognize that this is a very emotive issue, and I recognize that it's an incredibly important issue, because at the end of the day, it's all about growth, and customer service is one of the most important things that we do. I must admit, though, however, that I feel that I need to come to the defense of the staff for just a moment. It's not as if our staff have been sitting in their cubicles and in their offices not talking to developers. And most of the points that our developers would voice to you, we have already heard. The question now is, how do we go about actioning that? It's not as if we are not arranging forums with those same consultants and developers. We have some on the books. In fact, we have had to change the dates of some of those because the consultants and developers said they were not available for the first set of dates. So we're adjusting to their needs. I've had developers into my office for one-on-one meetings. We have hired a facilitator to work with developers who, for whatever reason, don't wish to come forward for some sort of misplaced fear of some sort of repercussions for coming forward. So they can go to a facilitator now and voice their views to that facilitator. I could go on. I just wish to make the point, and I apologize if I sound defensive. I don't mean to be, because customer service needs to improve. Absolutely. But if I do sound defensive, it's because I think the truth is in the middle somewhere, and the staff have been working very hard to understand the problems and fix them. And what you see here in these 6 points, which is a monumental amount of work, are some of the things that we are going to take a look at as we move forward. And my final comment is, although we have a customer service manager now to overwatch the one-stop development shop, she, with all due respect, is not responsible for customer service. And that's one of the first messages that we voice to everybody. We are all about customer service. We will all work towards it. And enough. I think that's the summary of my point.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of quick comments for your consideration, Jacqueline. Thank you. We said, oh, sorry, John, I didn't see your light. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. So guys, just so you know, in committee meetings, it's not like council meetings. I can't see. So in committee meetings, if you want to speak, there can only be 4. If you want to speak, you just give me a hand or something. It's not like in council where you stack up. So if you put yours on, for example, John, and I go to the deputy first, it's because there's no order. I can't see.
So that's fine. I tried to put it on last time.
Only 4 mics can light at the same time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, so I just want to pick up on one comment here, okay? It's not all about one person. Congratulations, Rachel. You'll make a great manager. But it's everybody. It only takes one voice. I know, because I had the problem at the little post office on the west side. We had a great team, but there was one disgruntled person, and if you go to that disgruntled person and you get a bad experience, you never go back. So it's a team effort, and I really appreciate the report. I love it, and if there's anything I can do to help, I'll be there, and that's all the time I'll take.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Councillor. Just a couple of comments, again, to this committee. We met back in December. This committee continued to bring feedback to our wonderful staff that this was an important issue. Develop St. John has continued to work on this issue. The teams are working together. The items being actioned. So, sort of start with a thank you. A couple of rapid fire, Jacqueline. I know we have metrics around building permit turnaround times, and I would just encourage the group to think about what are the metrics across the whole building project that are important. On-time inspections, closing on time, and I know, I absolutely, somebody's going to say, well, hold on now, Mayor, we control that, they control that, but I just encourage you, regardless of who controls it, to look at a series of metrics coming from the business. There's a whole series of metrics. The most important ones is, do we get it built on time? Are we going to close on time? And are we going to get our money from the bank? So that's why sometimes I think staff are the recipient of animated phone calls, so I just encourage you to look at a range of metrics across the entire project. I would encourage you, which you already beat me, I wrote down my comment before, to look at the organizational structure. So you've already done that with this, test with Ms. Van Wart. So, but also to look at, how do we org the structure? And I use the example of my past, if my past life, one of our divisions was a land development company, but they decided they weren't a land developer. They happened to develop land, but they were a customer service company that were probably the first, and maybe still are, to hire designers to draw the house for the customer. So I'm just saying, look at our structure and how we may have done things, but how might we do things moving forward? A little bit unorthodox, maybe crazy innovative. But there could be some, what are those things that we could do to facilitate that building project for someone? And now I'm gonna weave that in to try and manage expectations. I think that, also policy. Any policies that, I remember being upset one night at an airport stuck, I think, and I said, I'm not upset with you, I'm upset with Air Canada, who's put a policy in place to make you fail. So I would love to hear back from the committee and the work. What policies have council put in place that are having you fail? So let's kill some policies maybe that are no good. And then the other thing is, and again, just to qualify, I don't say it from 8,000 projects I was involved in my time. So I know this business, and I'm really concerned that, John and I were in a meeting last week, nothing but absolute praise. Wonderful, fantastic, your staff were awesome. And then you could go to the next meeting and it's not as pleasant. So what is that? To me, that's expectations, that's role clarity, the consistency, understanding the process, who does what. I think there's a lot of meat on the bone, and poor Jacqueline, I know I've talked to you about this, but I'm convinced, I don't mean in a derogatory way, I think we've got folks that are not builders and they're not developers and they shouldn't even be in the business. Because, I'm not, when I say get innovative and think about creative ideas, I'm not saying do engineering for people, draw all their plans for it. Like, there are roles, and I think some of the frustration that we receive is because some people are not don't understand those roles. Council plays a key, so role clarity between council, builders, developers, engineers, all the approval folks here, and then council plays a key role in being that facilitator to bring that feedback through, but also, just caution us all to not filter, but just not verbatim, right? Just to, pass the feedback along, set policy around great customer service. And then lastly, I would say, I forgot under policy, I'm a big fan of the start with yes. Not, some yeses are unqualified yeses, some are qualified yeses, but it's a real attitude, and if you want a great example is, go anyone that shops at Costco, for example, that corporate culture around customer service. So those would be my comments, but a lot of thanks to the teams within the city directly, Develop St. John and others that have been involved, and look forward to the outcomes. Okay, so is the recommendation to move it through to council? Okay, thank you. All those in favor? And contrary-minded? Not seeing any? Thank you. Okay, thank you. Just a couple, two quick ones here. Urban Development Incentive Pilot Program. Ms. Hamilton, are you introducing this one, or? Yep. Okay. So you just hit your mic and you'll be good to go.
Yep. Good afternoon, committee. So the next two items are interrelated. It's really speaks to the suite of incentive programs that council has adopted with respect to the urban development incentive programs on the peninsula and the Heritage Grants program that's currently offered throughout the city and the city's heritage areas. Today we wanted the opportunity to present, we've done some work around looking at improvements and reforms to these programs to really get at the notion of carrots to really enhance the suite of offerings that we have, you know, to allow for the carrots and the sticks. And we have some recommendations that will flow through in two separate items that recommend changes to aspects of these programs. So we wanted to take the time today to go through it, and then ultimately council will have to approve the changes. So I'm going to just first introduce Andy Reid and Jody. I don't know if you're participating as well in the Urban Development Incentives presentation, and it'll be followed by Amy Poffenroff and Emma Sampson to speak to Heritage Grants. And then what I'd suggest, we get through those two presentations and then have the discussion about the recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jacqueline. So we're going to start with the Urban Development Incentive Program and Beautification Program. And just to give you an idea what's in your report there, we have a recommendation on amendments to the beautification policy and a proposed amendments to the urban development policy. That's the larger policy, as well as an evaluation of the overall program. So if you recall, the Development Incentive Program launched 3 years ago. It was a pilot. It's now come to an end. So we're at this exciting time where we get to look and see how it did, evaluate its performance. So I'm going to share with you some facts, some pictures, and some of the direction moving forward for the Urban Development Incentive Program. I'm going to try and make this quick, but in terms of the outline, I just want to give you the background, the performance, and then the recommendations. I don't want to belabor this, you know this, but the reasons why we chose the Central Peninsula at the outset is basically comes down to statistics and having the most bang for the buck for the small area of land. It yields the most taxes and represents further opportunity to maximize tax revenue and fulfill the policies of the municipal plan by driving density. There's lots of opportunity remaining on the Central Peninsula. In terms of our other programs, such as the dangerous and derelict building list, it represents a considerable portion. It's 31% of buildings are on that list, and there are around 70 buildings assessed below 70,000. So when you think of the incentive program, there's sort of two suites. There's the Development Incentive Program, which has a larger funding envelope, and then there's a beautification policy, which is just $50,000 annual. I'm going to just go over the beautification program first. There were 41 projects over the course of 3 years. Just under 100,000 paid out in beautification grants, and that leveraged approximately $500,000 in total private reinvestment. So these are just a few examples of some of the projects. Notice just how much some exterior renovation can really help a streetscape that's in need of repair.
Wow.
So in terms of amendments to the beautification policy attached in your report, they're just minor amendments. The policy is working quite well, but we plan on extending eligibility for exterior painting to side yards. So say where there's a large parking lot or gap and visible blight, participants would be eligible to get funding for painting, which is really a nominal amount for the side facade of their building, as well as improving administration of the program and aligning the program more with the Central Peninsula Neighborhood Plan boundary. So in terms of program performance for the Development Incentive Program, that was the larger funding envelope of just over 100,000. We will have 71 new residential units as a result of the program. There were 11 projects in total, and 6 of those have been complete, with the remaining 5 slotted to be complete this year. I'm just going to run through a few of these. These may be familiar to you. These are the completed projects. The first one with an estimated tax increase of about $10,000 per year. This one, the Prince William Street townhouses, is a great model for what we would seek more of, making use of a vacant lot for new tax increases of $15,000 per year estimated. In Union Street, on one of the edges of the uptown, a lesser tax amount of $2,500 per year, but really a pioneer project in an area that's just starting to come more online. 82 Germain Street, $4,400 tax increase with new residential units and ground floor commercial space. Just across the street, new tax increase of an estimated around $15,000 per year with residential and combined commercial space. So you think of, there's the benefits of the tax increase, there's a new business, there's a new people living there. There are a lot of spin-offs as a result. And finally, this one just recently completed at 1 Charlotte Street, you're probably all familiar with. We don't have the tax numbers on this one yet. There are also a myriad of the other 5 projects to be complete this year, and I'll just go through the images of these ones so you kind of get a sense of what they are. The majority of the, I'll just pause on this one. This was a non-market housing project. The only one that came through the program. It would be nice to see more of these come through. This one on Exmouth Street, which has great city infrastructure, but is, again, hurting for high-quality housing stock. So this is a great example of how the incentive program can collaborate with the nonprofit sector to really create a great improvement in the Waterloo Village. So in terms of the financial performance, there was estimated just over $7 million private sector dollars leveraged, and that constituted just over $500,000 of total grants committed. We've paid out a portion of that, and there's still around $500,000 to be paid out of those grants. I wanted to give you a sense, finally, of some of the policy amendment directions we're proposing. We're still a bit preliminary on this, and our aim would be to bring the beautification policy and the urban development policy to council in April. So we came to get some of your initial feedback. We'd still be engaging some of our partners like Develop SJ and Uptown St. John and some of these tweaks to the program. You know, it's working quite well, but it was a pilot. There's always room for improvement. Some of these proposed amendments would be changing the calculation of our grant amount formula so that it's no longer based on construction costs, but on the value of the property after it's complete. Also distinguishing between the residential and commercial value of those properties, as well as simplifying the policy, just making it easier to understand, shorter, easier to interpret for outside investors. What we hope to achieve by this would be to eliminate or reduce the risk of paying out more than the city receives in incremental revenue, so it just makes it more airtight and opens it to enable larger projects. So that would enable us to remove, right now for projects, we have a cap, a height of $155,000 for incentive projects. So that would enable us to remove that cap, incent larger projects. We'd also be, as I mentioned, simplifying the process for ease of understanding, and really importantly, streamlining the back end of the process. So when people come to submit their payments and receipts, we just make that really easy. It just flows really well. By doing that, we hope to just continue to catalyze growth in an area which has been selected for 3 years and which really is owed more time to allow for incentives to occur. I'd say we intentionally set out a short time window for incentives, but there is certainly room for more in the Central Peninsula. We haven't run out of vacant lots or vacant buildings, and we know of projects that are still interested in making use of incentives in this area. So with the Central Peninsula Neighborhood Plan forthcoming this year, it's really an important moment to continue with the momentum of incentives and build on the excitement in the area. So in summary, the recommendation would be the Growth Committee receive and file this presentation, adopt or recommend to Council to adopt the Urban Beautification Grant Policy that's attached in your report, and to authorize us to proceed with amendments to the Development Incentive Program policy for Common Council's consideration as outlined in this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Jacqueline, you had suggested we keep going, but do you want to field a few questions just on this one presentation and then go to Heritage, or do you want to do Heritage?
I was thinking it would be helpful to hear the full context of
Okay.
of the heritage as well, but it's really up to the community to take a few questions now.
Do you want to just keep,
Well, I think I'd rather focus on this now before I mix it with the other.
okay, and then maybe
Is that
you
all
can
right?
just tie if we're getting questions that you think it's important to, yeah. Okay, sorry, so Deputy will go first, and then
Well, I think it's a good
just
program.
hit your mic there for us, Deputy, please.
Oh, I do, I have it on.
Okay, go ahead, sorry. I didn't-
I think it's good. Everything you said, that's fine. We're not adding any funding to the incentives. The changes to the program are within the funding that we already have been allocated. So I have no problem with that part of it. I think it's good. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so just, you can't hit your button, hold on, I'm trying to figure out who's sitting where. Okay, thank you, go ahead, John.
Okay, thanks. This is just an idea that I want to put out there. I'm all for supporting this, okay? But I think we'd be a lot farther ahead if we had sort of like a tax stall program. So if Phil wants to put $100,000 into his house, he remains paying the taxes that he was paying prior to putting the $100,000 in, okay? Until such time as our grant money was paid to him. So in other words, we're just not going to charge him the taxes for maybe 5 years that he should be charged. That gives him an incentive to go ahead with his project, whether it's a heritage, whether it's uptown or anywhere in the city. I mean, this is great if we had money to do it, which, you know, we have limited funding to do it. But by having an open concept like that, some sort of a rebate program, so, and it's going to have to be a rebate, like, you know, he would pay the taxes, what he owes, and then the city would have to just reimburse him back to where he was until he get the money back. But I think that is pretty common in some places, and I think that's something we should look at. But I'll support this 100%.
If I could respond through you to the counselor, with these tweaks, that's essentially what we're doing. We're making it more like, we can't, under provincial legislation, do that, but it's more like that. So you would have the option of the grant. There's 3 different grants. There's this residential grant, which essentially will do that over 5 years. Those taxes will be, we have a ratio which kind of mirrors the tax, but we can't quite call it incremental tax financing with the provincial legislation, but we have a legal opinion that says we can move to this ratio. So essentially we'll be doing what you're saying. And then we have an additional grant for construction challenges, which that would be where the funding envelope is required. The base grant is really just funded off new tax income for the next 5 years.
Is that for anywhere in the city?
No, that's just for the Central Peninsula.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
There you go. Okay, this is great. I mean, something as simple as giving them a grant, or whatever you want to call it, incentive, just to paint their side of their building, enhances the whole neighborhood. Something that simple, folks. Very little money, and you brought up the guy only going to raise the thing by $2,500. Now, I have a business up on Union Street. That guy spent a fortune in that building, and I don't think I won't live long enough to get his money back. But that's the stuff we need. This is great what you're doing. This is new, inventive, but we have to get the word out too, so people know. You paint the side of your house, you can get a little grant. It gives them that, oh, gee, good. And it helps improve the images, and I know it's just uptown St. John right now, but you gotta start somewhere and go out. So I'm all for this, so I think it's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Just a question on, I mean, I'm sure you put lots of thought in, just trying to wrap my own head around the removal of the cap. So I guess that would wait. You could have, which would be good, I think, you could have bigger projects and therefore if you did a number of big projects, you'd do fewer projects because you eat through your budget, but I guess it will be driven by the return is essentially what I think we're saying. So yeah, perfect, okay. Wonderful. Okay, so somebody would like to move that recommendation? Thank you. Moved by the deputy, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Thank you. All those in favor? Anyone contrary-minded? Not seeing any. Thank you, Annie, for that. And then, Ms. Hamilton, are you going to introduce this next one as well?
Yeah, just take out this
or just straight to Amy? Okay, thanks,
Sure,
Ms. Paparot,
thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to introduce this item very quickly. So the Heritage Development Board requested an increase of $120,000 to the Heritage Grant Program for a total of $200,000. In the budget already, there's $80,000. So this request was forwarded to the Growth Committee, and staff has been taking a look at the Heritage Board's request. And we've taken a bit more of a modest approach with a recommended $80,000 of an increase to the grant program, and that can be modified based on the Growth Committee and Council's comfort level. So I will hand it over to Emma Sampson. Emma is our Heritage Officer, and I don't think she's spoken at the Growth Committee yet, so I'll introduce Emma, and she will take you through the details.
This is the, yes, be kind is what we're saying to, welcome, Emma, nice to see you. This is one of the most passionate committees in all of council, all of the city.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Hi.
So as the Deputy Commissioner has said, the Heritage Grant Program has seen long-term success, especially in the past year, in assisting property owners with the maintenance and character-appropriate upgrades to their designated properties. The value of work linked to these projects, the program's return on investment, property value increases, and building permit fees on projects that may not have otherwise been carried out due to financial constraints have contributed strongly to growth objectives outlined by the City of St. John. It is expected that the demand for financial assistance through the Heritage Grant Program will continue to increase, readily surpassing the $80,000 initial budget in 2019 as it did in 2018. The Heritage Development Board has, through written request, asked for a $120,000 increase to the program budget, which would bring the budget to $200,000 for the 2019 operating year. Staff supports the positive outlook of the board, but would suggest that an $80,000 increase would be more suitable, and this is based on two considerations. The first is the application uptake seen thus far in the year. As mentioned previously, the $80,000 budget set for 2018 was easily met and surpassed by July, with an additional $21,000 in funds paid out through Growth Reserve Fund access. That same $80,000 budget is in place for this operating year, and to date, 55% of that budget has already been earmarked, $44,000 to support $480,000 in estimated value of work. At this pace, it is anticipated that the entire budget will be conditionally allocated before summer and before peak application season. The second consideration is the lifting of a key item from the list of ineligible materials, and this would be aluminum-clad wood windows. Both the Heritage Development Board and staff support this item, primarily to be more consistent with the board's trend of more flexible approvals around a common application item, but also for the following reasons. Windows are often one of the most expensive upgrades to a property. Property owners have expressed an unwillingness and/or an inability to undertake these replacements without financial support. Window upgrades have one of the largest impacts on the energy efficiency and, more importantly, the livability of a building, making funds available in future for other improvements. And the Beautification Grant Program, which covers all non-heritage properties in the Central Peninsula, currently provides reimbursement for aluminum-clad wood windows. It's anticipated that the demand for reimbursement on these windows will be high if made eligible, and that without additional funds, the change in policy cannot go forward. The budget will be fully allocated, either through standard grant applications or through window applicants. To expand on this, were aluminum-clad wood windows reimbursed in 2018, and had each applicant received the proposed maximum $7,500 reimbursement, expenditure would have been $82,500. This would have leveraged at minimum a value of work of $412,500. So this 5-to-1 return on investment, along with minimum $5,000 in building permit fees and the resulting increased property assessments, would be a huge boon to the city and to the program. However, that total expenditure, the $82,500, is more than 2018's initial budget and more than 2019's current budget. Based on the estimated city expenditure from 2018 projects, staff would recommend that the reimbursement of aluminum-clad wood windows only be implemented with the approval of a maximum of $80,000 increase to the grant budget as a one-year test program. Staff would also propose that this item be made available to all heritage property owners, not just those with conservation plans, to provide access and opportunity for those buildings that would benefit most strongly. A key factor in the ongoing success of the program is the continued availability of the grant program and its ability to address key issues related to the health of the properties it benefits. The shift in attitudes towards conservation, as demonstrated by the actions of the Heritage Development Board, should be represented accordingly in the items the city is willing to incentivize. But this should come in addition to and not in place of the current success of the grant program. This will only be possible through an increase in the annual operating budget for the program. Providing more options and opportunities for property owners will encourage growth on a broader scale, helping to further the trend of revitalization of the Central Peninsula and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure who was first, but we'll get to you in a second here. Ray, Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, sorry, hit your button.
Again, yeah, okay, there we go. All right, thank you for the presentation. I think it's great. I would ask for the 200,000. I think I'm on the Heritage Committee, so I would ask for the whole 200 grand because we're getting our money back. We're getting our money back, and that's what it's about. They've only asked for 80, and now they're going to include windows because window is the #1 cost. When a guy looks at a house in the Heritage area, and this is for all the St. John, correct? Make sure they emphasize that. This is for the whole city. You can live anywhere in the city because we're always saying about uptown, but this is for everywhere in the city. But the windows is the biggest thing. We want to do windows because it costs a fortune for windows. If I had my way, we'd be putting in regular windows, but anyway, I think we all know where I stand on that one. But I mean, we have to follow the rules, and I think this is great. I think I'm going to vote for it, obviously, but I think we should have, I'm a big fan of incentives for developers and everybody, because we're tight on money, so we can only, and I appreciate staff only asking for the 80,000, but I'm all for it. I can't say enough good things. The Heritage is working, the image is turning around, and the money is coming back to us tenfold in time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll just come down the line here. John, did you have a comment? Or?
I'm just going to support it.
Okay, no problem. Deputy Mayor?
Well, I have a comment.
Oh, sorry. Just hit your button there, Shirley.
I appreciate your presentation, Emma, and it's all good stuff. But 3 months ago, we voted it down because it was in the budget, and we could not give the extra money for Heritage. And what we did in the budget, we gave $350,000 to the Growth Committee, and we do not have a policy on the Growth Committee. Is that $350,000 to support programs that we already have in place, or is it for new initiatives? And I don't have an answer to that. So I guess I can support this, but the thing is, we're kind of doing it it doesn't sit that well with me because it's only 3 short months ago when we told the public of the city of St. John that we could not afford to increase the Heritage grants because of our budget. So you can't send, opposite messages to the public. And it's only March. If this was in September or October, and you were at the end of the line here, and we hadn't spent that $350,000 for a new initiative, whatever that might be, or maybe there isn't going to be one, then I could understand that much better. It's the same with the next item. Taking money out of the budget now that we didn't give it to your department, Growth and Development, 3 months ago, and now we're changing our mind. So that leaves a big question for me, and if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm sorry. I'm a consistent person. 3 months ago, we couldn't afford it. Today, okay, let's go. So, okay, maybe we won't have any new initiatives, but to me, that $350,000 that we're given in Growth Committee is for something that might come up through the year that the Growth Committee wants to go forward on it. And then we have the money. If we spend it all in the month of March, we're not going to have any. Anyway, it's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. City Manager, do you have a comment?
No, yeah, I just wanted, Your Worship, to clarify that you're absolutely right, Deputy Mayor. We are asking for this money not as an addition to the budget, but rather as a withdrawal out of the Growth Reserve Fund. So your points about, bringing the Growth Reserve Fund down by 80,000 if this was to go through are valid, but the Growth Reserve Fund is in healthy condition right now. Help me out. Do we know the figure?
660.
No, we have over 600,000 in that fund because we have
2 years.
2 years worth of deposits in there at this point. So the fund itself is over 600,000, and the recommendation is that we withdraw 80,000 from that fund for this program, just so that people have the figures when they deliberate whether they'll support it or not.
Hey, City Manager, I understand what you're saying. First of all, I didn't know we carried it, because that must be the only committee in the city that we carry money on, because normally we don't carry it for departments. But in saying that, I can vote for this, but the thing is, like I've told the public 3 months ago, I can't afford it, and now I can. So why don't we just put the thing in the budget in like 3 months ago and say, okay, we'll give them 80,000. Why do we, I don't, it doesn't sit all that well with me.
Okay,
Sorry.
thanks. Thank you. And Councillor Sturbridge, can you just hit your button there and should be good to go. There you go.
Thank you. I have a few questions around this because it sparked some red flags with me as well. So first one is, during the presentation, you brought up the justification. One of the justifications that the Heritage Board is using to request more money from us is around the change in windows.
Yes.
And you said if the extra funding is not approved, then that can't take place.
No, to clarify, the board does currently approve aluminum-clad wood windows, and those are more often approved than wood windows at this point in time. And it's a bit of an inconsistency between what the board approves and what the city is willing to incentivize. So we only incentivize wood windows, and we would continue to do so. But we're just looking to bring that in line with the trend of approvals, that if we approve aluminum-clad wood windows, we would also incentivize them.
But won't you be able to do that whether we increase your fund, that envelope funding anyway?
It's likely, although from what staff has gauged from property owner feedback, it's likely that the appetite for incentives around aluminum-clad wood windows would likely consume the remainder of our budget, which would leave other property owners who want to do, say, brickwork on their property out in the cold.
Okay, so how is it, who picks how do you pick that he's going to get money and he's not? Is it first come, first served basis?
It is first come,
So
first
there's
served.
no criteria at all?
There are minimum criteria, so it does have to be traditional materials.
No, sorry, I mean, there's no criteria on who gets the money or not, it's whoever gets to the front of the line. Well, maybe that should be changed. If you're being overwhelmed with the amount of requests for reimbursement, and there's half of the people are getting none because all the money's eaten up, maybe you should, I don't know, do a draw or something like they do for moose hunting licenses, so everybody gets a fair shot, right? As opposed to first come, first serve. I don't know.
Through your worship, so last year is a good example. We expended 97% of our budget. Okay, so we're sort of at the right number. Last year, it was $105,000 is what we ended up with as a grant fund. And so the change with this is that the Heritage Board would like to see more grant funding. And one of the ways we thought that it would be really beneficial for property owners is to add a grant for aluminum-clad wood, which you cannot get a grant for now. You can get a permit, we allow it, absolutely, but you can't get a grant for it. So we thought, well, if the Heritage Board would like to see more money in this fund and grant more projects, one thing that we hear regularly from property owners is the financial difficulty in putting in new windows. So with this, it allows us to grant or incentivize something that never got grant money before, a modern material. But it's absolutely permitted. It's just that we've never granted it before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. So is the $80,000 then going to be separated from all the other work that we give grants to? So this $80,000 that they're requesting, is that going to be set aside, and the only people who can access that are the ones who do the windows?
No, we would combine it with the existing grant of 80, so a total grant fund of 160. We think that would be enough money to help people do the heritage conservation projects that they're doing now and are getting grants for, and include this new modern material incentive.
Yep, no, I understand. Okay. So if council ultimately refuses this funding increase? Or no, is it going to stop here at us?
No, go to council.
Are you still going to allow people to have the change with the windows?
Through your worship, no, because the $80,000 that we have in the operating budget right now is just enough, or is still less than what the requests are for heritage conservation. So if we don't get more money, we wouldn't want to open it up to these modern materials. We would keep the program as it is, incentivizing people to do heritage conservation work to their buildings.
And that's because you would be afraid that nobody else would get any money because the window work would eat it all up.
That's right. We wouldn't want our traditional sort of heritage grant program to be eaten up by people putting in modern.
So all you're doing is windows, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just, we say, thank you.
Sure.
We say no to so many people who come forward looking for money. We say no all the time. And, I hear, like, my first question was, where are we going to get another 80 grand? I'm the last person that will say this because it creates a very negative public perception. But as we all know, we've heard many people say, city's got no money, the city's this, city's that. And I understand we have it in a funding envelope for our growth committee. So if we have, as long as you're handing it out, people are going to come and ask for it, right? So if we've got all this extra money, maybe we need to reduce our own budget for this committee. Maybe, do we need to spend it because we have it? Just because I say that to my daughter all the time. Say, Brooklyn, just because you have the money in your bank doesn't mean you have to spend it, right? And so, I can understand, as Councillor Armstrong said, you're going to reek the money back. I can understand that, but at the same time, I'm just like, we're supposed to be operating in very fiscally constraining times, right? And they're coming saying, we wanted even more than $80,000. Well, great, aim high, no problem, we'll meet in the middle. So I just don't know, I'm a little torn on this, really. And maybe, as I said, as a suggestion, maybe there should be a draw for who gets that money. Everybody submit your applications, and at the end of the year, we'll draw it, like the grants committee. Right, it's not a first come, first serve. It's here's my application, here's why I think I should get the money, and then we decide at the end of the year who's getting it. And maybe that's something you guys should consider so that it's not all eaten up because Joe Public got there before me, right? That doesn't even seem fair to me, but anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Just a couple of comments, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor McKenzie. I think so. Again, spirited discussion. I think the difference for me and what this committee has been focused on is growing the city, and in particular, growing the tax base. And so we have a bit of reserve relative to the total budgets, not a lot, but we have a strategic growth reserve fund to invest in those areas that will grow the city, and in particular, we pay our bills with tax base. So, to me, that's the difference. We say no to many groups all day long, and because in many cases it may improve life a little bit, or may do this or that, but it may not be able to draw a direct line to growing the tax base, people investing. So I guess I think, to me, that's the difference. I think that's what the fund is. I think to the deputy's comments, we said no a month or two ago in that operating budget. I don't want to see, nor would I expect to see every growth meeting. We've got another, if we're going to do that maybe I'll flip my comment around. What growth initiative and business case should we be presenting to invest wisely our growth reserve fund to grow our tax base and move ourselves forward? I think that fits within this. The modernization of the bylaw, other good work that's going on. I'm a little bit trapped in my own head. Should that happen? First to see, if this. But I think what you're telling us is there's a lot of demand. And not for today. I think I'm supportive of this, but anytime you're giving an incentive, you want to make sure you're not giving an incentive to groups that are going to do the work anyway. So I think, ongoing debate or review of all of our incentives to say, would this work happen anyway? And I think the narrative that we hear here is this work is more expensive work. And the other thing I would say is I had a meeting a while ago now, I think it was last fall, and the narrative was St. John isn't doing anything for its heritage properties. And I said, boy, oh boy, I don't know who you're talking to, because we've had incentives for decades. We've got amazing work going on. We've got more demand. Where there's demand, there's going to be more investment in heritage properties. So, we can't, we have to be careful that we celebrate having one of Canada's most awesome accumulations of heritage properties and then be seen not to be investing. So I think everyone's made great comments. I'm supportive of this, this particular initiative, under the caveat that we be thinking over the next year about our grants. Would this be happening anyway as demand goes up? Is there a way for us to spread the grants out over more projects, therefore, capping the grants off a bit more? But, those would be generally my comments. Thanks, Councillor. It says Casey here, but it's Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you. I support it, and it is a growth initiative. When I look in the Old North End, and see the number of buildings, we're going to talk about that, about the number of buildings that we're tearing down, a lot of them are heritage buildings. Like, they may not be in a heritage zone, but they're old buildings. They're beautiful old buildings that just haven't been kept up. And so, a program like this is designed to sort of help our heritage survive and move forward. And I not only support this, but I would certainly support expanding some sort of a program to, to support the ones in other areas of the city. So I just want to leave it at that, I guess.
Thank you. Councillor Ray, did you have another comment or no?
No, I would just reiterate that I don't think first come, first serve is fair. I don't think that's a fair way to do it. And then if the money wasn't there, even if subsequent years going further, then all that window work wouldn't eat it all up, because it wouldn't become first come, first serve.
Okay, so we can take that feedback back to the committee, and our council colleague can take that feedback back for us as well. Okay, okay, thanks. Somebody. I'm going to move. Did you move that? Sorry, John.
Move the recommendation.
You move it.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And on the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and
No, I just want to, I have my light on, but.
okay.
I'm not going to support, it's not that I don't support what you're doing,
Okay.
but that I think we're sending mixed messages, and 3 months ago, we did a budget, and we're in a tough situation. You can't be tough and be spending money at the same time. And what Ray said, Councillor Strowbridge, absolutely right. If we tell the public that we've got a lot of money in the growth committee, and then we're out saying we can't afford to buy the next whatever, it's the wrong message. You don't do that. You want to come to us in September, the same with the next item, and say, look, we've run out of money, we want to do more buildings? Okay. I can see it a little bit better than I can now. 3 months after a budget, I don't think I can support it, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. Okay, so we'll just register you as a nay then. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so it's we're way over. It's 5:20. Is the next item? I'm just worried about fatigue at this stage, and I think you were saying, Jacqueline, that we could just move it back 1 month.
So long as the committee agrees, because it was on the agenda.
So we'll move that item to the next item, to the next agenda. Okay, seconded. All those in favor? No contrary minded. Okay, thank you. And just before I know we're going to go, but it's very, very quickly. I think there were so many examples today, and of very, very positive news, numbers, initiatives. I think it's positive myself. I'm not, I respect everyone's, counter opinion that we have strategically put some money aside to invest in growth. It's what we need most to drive tax-based growth. We got a lot of projects in the pipeline. Jobs. We do have tax growth. We're doing customer service enhancement. So, one of the themes today, City Manager, which we already know, is strategic communications. In the interim, certainly I can tell you, social media is certainly pushing this narrative, right? There isn't a day that goes by that I don't see jobs announcements or other good news announcements. So as we continue so that's one of the big themes, is the strategic communications piece, which we're working on. I think we shared a lot of great news today. We wouldn't have been able to share that without a lot of great work by very dedicated staff, team members, so thank you for that. And then to Growth Committee colleagues, we had a lot of spirited, passionate discussion today, so thanks. Keep bringing the passion. So, okay, motion to adjourn. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.